Hey, hello, and good evening, and welcome to our monthly health lesson. I am so glad that you have taken time out to join us on this Thursday. I hope that you have had an amazing day and that you're looking forward to learning some information that will help you make better choices concerning your health. Now, hopefully, you've got something that you can jot down some notes with. Hopefully, you have your mobile device so that you will be able to get those pre and post surveys out of the way. But before all of that, I want to extend an opportunity to you, your family, and your friends to go ahead and join our online health and wellness opportunity. So how can you do that? I'm so glad that you asked. Allow me to share a screen with two QR codes that you can take advantage of. So the Scan Me code on it's on my left of the screen. That will be our Facebook platform. For those that may not be on Facebook, we have an option for you to keep you connected. You can join our health and wellness community on the Band app. So if you would go ahead, take an opportunity to get connected to our community. This is the place where we fortify the information that we are learning in our health sessions. All right. So listen, you've probably had the time to go ahead, hit the share button, invite some families, some friends, some frenemies, whoever. We want to get this information out because we are so excited that we have this platform. Tab Health and Wellness has had the opportunity to partner yet again with the American Heart Association and Amgen Cardiology. So we want to make sure that we are reaching the masses. We want to make sure that we are making better choices and being better stewards of our health. All right, so that being said, if you joined us last month, you're familiar with the procedure. We're going to get a quick 1-minute post survey out of the way. We're going to present our lesson materials, and then at the conclusion, we will take our post survey. So let's go ahead and get that information queued up. You will either be able to join in the surveys by going directly to the QR codes. Let me get this set so we can get to our next screen. We can either do it by going through the QR code. Sorry, y'all, trying to get that up. There we go. We are talking tonight about breaking up with excess sodium. So the talks are all about salt. So I want you to go ahead now, and if you would, get this pre-survey out of the way. 1 minute is all it takes. All right, so either take your phone, scan the QR code, and you will be led to the survey by that means. Or if you don't have an opportunity to do that, you can enter that web link, and what we will do, we will make sure that we have it provided on your screen in the comments section on Facebook and YouTube so that you can click that, get the survey out of the way, and join us back. Fair enough? All right. Thank you so much for doing that. Again, we are going to talk about breaking up with excess sodium. Excess sodium. So we'll learn as we go throughout the material tonight that, yeah, our body needs sodium, but we need to pay attention to the salt. All right, so for a quick overview of what we plan to accomplish tonight, I've already welcomed you, so we're about to get into the nitty-gritty. We want to make sure that you walk away from this time this evening understanding how sodium, number one, affects your health. The second objective to tonight's lesson is going to be for us learning about some common sources of sodium, because we'll come to realize that, there is sodium or excess salt in some places, in some things that we might not have been aware of. And then lastly, we're going to take some steps to help reduce our sodium intake. All right, so if you can bear with me on this evening to where we can go over those 3 areas, we'll be in a great place to make some strides where our health is concerned. All right, so now I want us to look at this slide briefly. All right, we're talking about sodium and our health. And I've already established that, our body needs some sodium to work properly. All right, our bodies need some degree of sodium. However, in the same breath, I'm also going to say that too much sodium causes us to hold on to water. So I'm going to say fluid. All right. So if you notice that you might have swelling in your extremities, that's fluid. All right. So when we have increased fluid in our body, it puts a strain, it puts an extra burden. Now listen, however many years you've been living, that heart's been beating just that long. All right. The muscle is such a strong and resilient muscle, but you can put a strain, you can put a burden on your heart and on the blood vessels by consuming too much sodium. And most of the sodium that we consume is in the form of salt. All right. Salt. This stuff right here. This is not a brand plug. It's not that. Just examples. All right. Salt. I don't care what color it is. I don't care if it's pink, black, red, yellow. I don't care if it's sea salt, kosher salt. I want us to be mindful that salt is salt. Perhaps maybe not all salt is created equal, but if you would repeat after me and say, salt is salt. All right. Let's move a little bit more. I'll put the slide up, but I want to just rehearse again. We have come off of an entire month of paying attention to our blood pressure. We've been managing it. We've been monitoring it because we understand the risk associated with having high blood pressure. Now, if you are in that category where you have been diagnosed with high blood pressure, reducing the amount of sodium that you have in your diet can help you lower your blood pressure. For those of us that do not have a diagnosis of high blood pressure, it can help us avoid having high blood pressure. So all in all, managing the amount of sodium that we put into our body is a win-win situation. All right. So for your viewing pleasure, I will go ahead and put that next one up so that you can see. All right. It is a benefit, all right, because we understand that having that high blood pressure, it just sets us at even greater risk than we already are. We talked about that last month, the things that we are at risk for. Having that high blood pressure puts us at more risk, at greater risk of battling heart disease and or stroke, all right? So we don't want to contend with that. All right, so let's take a look at this. So too much sodium is also going to put us at risk for the following. Now, I want you to take an opportunity to look through that list because there was one, there was more than one, but there was one that really, really stood out to me. It surprised me. There were a few that I was like, yeah, a lot of sodium, having all that salt, it can indeed lead to these. All right, so as you're going through, I'd like for you to put in the comments section, all right, which one or ones are surprising to you? All right, It puts us at risk for an enlarged heart muscle, headaches, kidney disease, osteoporosis, stroke, heart failure, kidney stones, and stomach cancer. For me, stomach cancer was the one that was so surprising. Which one surprised you? Make sure that you put that in the comments so that we can chat about that. All right. So I want you to, now y'all are all at home or in your respective places. I need you to read this slide out loud to yourself. Okay? Because these stats are staggering. It was very sobering to me when I took the opportunity to take it for what it's worth. 9 out of 10 Americans, all right? 9 out of 10, so that's almost all of them. 9 out of 10 Americans in that little snippet. 9 out of 10 consume way too much sodium. All right? Now, keep in mind that sodium added to the food outside of the home accounts for more than 2/3 of the total sodium intake in the US. All right, I know that sounded wordy. As we get a little further along, we'll bring it down to us and our daily sodium intake so that we can understand that a little bit better. But more than 70% of the sodium comes from processed, packaged foods, or things that we eat out. So your restaurant dining, your fast food dining, that's where a lot of the consumption comes from. All right. So now think about that. How many times, it's Thursday, how many times have you eaten outside of the home this week? Just quick tally in your brain. Of what you ate, over 70%, keep in mind what the slide said, over 70% of sodium that we consume comes from those packaged, processed, or restaurant food items. Now think about it. If you're not intentionally taking the time to monitor what you sprinkle, what you shake on your foods, think about what you have put into your body that your hands didn't touch, your hands didn't prepare. Are you cognizant of the amount of salt that is in that particular food product? No, we're not. We're not. But hopefully after this, we will be. We'll become more conscious of our sodium intake. All right, let's move a little bit further. So in looking at that, let's continue. We've already established from our last gathering that, people of color, we are already at greater risk. There are some serious health disparities within our country. High blood pressure among Black Americans, us, is among the highest, as well as worldwide. All right, so other demographics, other populations of colors, over 57% of non-Hispanic Blacks have high blood pressure. Among the Hispanic population, that number is 44%. And then our Asian population, our Asian Americans, over 41% have high blood pressure. And we understand that sodium has a direct impact on high blood pressure. Well, how much is too much? This is what begins to bring it home for us, all right? Most of us consume more than, all right, more than 3,400 milligrams of sodium per day. I did not say that we consume 3,400 milligrams. I said most adults consume more than. All right. Let's put that in perspective. All right. The daily recommendation is no more than 2,300 milligrams. The data shows that we take in more than 34, but we are supposed to have less than 23. There's a gap there. However, the data shows us that if we could just cut back 1,000 of those milligrams a day, we would see improved health. Okay? So now, before we go and we talk about this, I want us to understand that there is a difference. I said that not all salt is created equal. We'll talk about that specifically in our health and wellness community. So make sure that you're a part of our Facebook group or a part of our band page. But okay, we're going to talk about this right here, salt. What's the difference between salt and sodium? Because remember, at the start of this, I shared that our body, we need sodium. We don't need salt. Okay, let's look at this a little bit more. All right, so on this screen, on this slide, there are some differences. All right, sodium is a mineral that is essential for life. All right, sodium is essential for life. Repeat after me. You know what? No, we're going to take off the screen share. Repeat after me. Table salt is not essential for life. I know there's a collective gasp across the community of color because we are known for seasoning. We put the love in our food. It is well seasoned and very tasty. However, I say this as one that cares about your health. Table salt is not essential for life. All right, take a deep breath. Let's go back to our slide. So, sodium is a mineral that's essential. Salt is about only 40% of that essential mineral, and the remaining 60% is chloride. All right, first difference between sodium and salt. All right, now sodium helps our body work. We already talked about the things that that sodium does for us. So it can control that fluid balance. That's why too much, we hold on to fluid. It helps with our muscle function. If you've ever been an athlete, you might recall that, sometimes if you were catching a cramp, they would try to get some sodium into you to kind of, ease up that muscle spasming. All right. But salt, on the other hand, for the most part, salt and sodium are used interchangeably, but I want you to get to the place to where you are checking those labels. You're seeking out your sodium in the natural form instead of the excess form. All right. Stay with me a little bit longer. We'll all get through this together. Just breathe, breathe, breathe. All right, so I want you to go ahead at this time, if you would, please give me a hashtag. I want you to put the hashtag salty6. All right, because there are 6 foods off the bat that have high sodium. If we can eliminate these foods, it will do us a great deal of good. Breads and rolls, high levels of sodium. Pizza, high levels of sodium. Sandwiches, okay, you get where I'm going. All right, so those top 3, what do they all have in common? The bread, the dough aspect of it. All right, high levels of sodium. Cold cuts and any type of cured meats. All right, your bologna, your ham, your luncheon meat. Okay, so your processed ham, your bologna, your bacon. High levels of sodium in your diet off the bat. Soups, all right? Go to your pantry, your cupboard at any moment. Pull out a can of soup. Read the ingredient label. not the ingredient label, but read the nutrition label and see the amount of sodium. And then lastly, I'm so glad that we're doing this class on a Thursday and not a Tuesday, because some people would probably come after me for Taco Tuesday. But burritos and tacos, yes, they can add high levels of sodium to your diet. All right. Now, just because of who we are, where we live, the society that we interact in, unfortunately, we eat a lot of prepackaged, processed, and restaurant foods. All right. These things are these things are killing us because we eat them, we enjoy them in excess. All right. When you think about it and look at the little graph that's on your screen. All right. So 15% of, the things that we eat in its truest or closest truest form, 15% of the sodium that we get from that's naturally occurring. But then you have us that enjoy seasoned foods. For us, salt is that go-to, and we're adding 10% while we're cooking whatever it is that we're cooking. Our pastor made the comment of, she's good with not shaking on the back end, but on the front end is where she has difficulty. That's to say that, all right, when we cook, we cook with salt. We don't necessarily put extra salt once it's plated for us, but we also have to be mindful of that which we are adding. All right. Most of the sodium that we eat is hidden, and I want us to do a better job of uncovering it. All right. So let's look at some common sources of sodium. We've already talked about the 70% that comes from those boxed, prepackaged, and restaurant foods. I want us to look at that middle slide right there. All right. It says that some foods contain sodium in their natural state. These are the type foods that I would love for you to make sure that you are mindful of getting in your diet so that your body has that mineral that is essential for life. All right. So some things that contain sodium in the natural state: cantaloupes, potatoes, milk. Milk can contain sodium in some small amounts, but then things such as bok choy, beets, and chard, they have moderate amount of sodium. All right, now we have to keep in mind that dreaded table salt, which is in all of our pantries and all of our cabinets. You have to be mindful that when you cook with it, when you add it, you are putting more sodium in your diet. So I need us to take the cover off the places where sodium is hidden. Well, how are we going to do that? We're going to start looking at the nutrition labels. All right. So for those already in the community, heads up, spoiler alert, this is going to be one of the first activities we have within our weeks of work, is paying attention to the labels. All right. So number one, please let us get to the place to where we take note of the serving size. So for right here in this particular example of this product, of this particular thing, 8 servings are in this container, and the serving size is 2/3 of a cup. So that means you should not consume the entire package you yourself. It means you should not consume the entire thing or half of this thing you yourself in an entire sitting. All right. So for that being the case, we understand that the sodium content is based on 1 serving with a size of 2/3 of a cup. So if we take 2/3 of a cup, we're going to pretend like my fingers, this is 2/3 of a cup. We're going to pretend that this much of that food product has 160 milligrams of salt. The more servings that I eat of it, the greater the salt intake. All right. We've got to read those labels. I know we don't want to, but we've got to learn to read them. Well, here are some things that we need to look at because we said that a lot of our sodium is hidden. So when you see things on the label and in the ingredients list, such as monosodium glutamate, MSG, that's a lot of sodium. Sodium bicarbonate, sodium nitrate, sodium citrate, sodium glutamate, if I said that one right, sodium lactate, and sodium phosphate. All of those ingredients are hidden sources of sodium. So yes, please ma'am, please sir, if you fall into the category of high blood pressure, I need you to read those labels. And not only that, when you're shopping, I need you to look, check the nutrition facts label, compare products. If you've got soup number 1 and soup number 2, same flavor, look at that sodium content. I need you to choose the items with the lowest sodium. All right, what other things can you look for? All right, understand what the packaging means. If something says sodium free, okay, so it's going to have some sodium in there. It's just that per the guidelines, you have less than 5 milligrams, all right? And it doesn't have any sodium chloride, all right? So remember, we talked about that table salt is a percentage of sodium and 60% chloride, all right? When it's sodium free, it doesn't have the chloride in it. Very low sodium means that you've got about 35 milligrams or less. Low sodium is 140 milligrams or less, all right? So we can use those to be informed with the choices that we make. Another example, all right, so reduced sodium, light or light in sodium. These are all terminologies that I need you to be familiar with, all right? Especially if we're in the category of having that high blood pressure, all right? So reduced or less sodium. You've seen the packaging that says that. That means that it's got at least 25% less sodium per serving, so per each serving that you have, than the usual sodium level, all right? Also, you might see that word light. When you see that, that means the food is low calorie or low fat, and that the sodium is reduced by at least 50%. All right. So, in addition to that, what are some of the healthy diet tips? What can we do to make some changes in the home? Because hopefully, and you let me know. Let me know how you feel down below. Hopefully the case has been made. Hopefully it has been signed, sealed, and delivered that we can take better control of our sodium intake if we are making the decision to eat more home prepared meals as opposed to eating out or eating prepackaged. Understand that those prepackaged things, those processed things, they have to endure the whole transit process. They've got to make it to the shelf, and then they've got to make it to our home, and then they've got to make it into us actively consuming it. That's got to be preserved so that it can just last through those many steps. What's the natural preservative? Salt. That's sodium. So if we eliminate that and we begin going back to, grandmama in them days, great grandmama in them, because, they didn't have McDonald's, whether they had McDonald's money or not. They didn't have McDonald's as an option. They didn't have DoorDash. They didn't have Uber Eats. They didn't have all of these convenience added options that we have today. They went to the grocery store, they went to market, they got those items and they prepared them at home. So, what are some healthy diet tips? What can we do in the home to help us break up with our unhealthy love affair with sodium in excess? Well, if we go back to our slide and take a look. All right, let me go back because I went one screen ahead, even though it's good information. We'll get there. Let me go one more back. All right, so I want us to adopt a diet that emphasizes a variety of fruits and vegetables. Somebody say colors. Yes, eat your colors. Get a variety of fruits and vegetables. Introduce and incorporate whole grains. All right, low-fat dairy products if you are one that is able to tolerate dairy. Skinless poultry and fish. Nuts, we don't add enough nuts and seeds to our diets. Non-tropical vegetable oils. We had a great question about what are tropical oils in our health and wellness ministry. You got to join the group so you can get in on the discussion. All right, and then limiting our saturated fat, trans fat, sodium, red meat, sweets, and sugary drinks. All right, in addition to that, what else can we do? When we cook at home, resist the temptation to use less salt. Resist the temptation and use less salt. All right, when you're cooking and seasoning, we're already ahead of the game because we've spent this week trying to incorporate that practice. For those of you that are addicted to shaking and sprinkling the salt after your meal has been plated, how about try it first? Just taste it first. See if you even need it. A lot of things we do from muscle memory. A lot of things we do because we've always done it. All right. You can also try salt-free seasoning alternatives. And then you can also be adventurous. Use herbs and spices, vinegars, lime or lemon juice. The acidity will add some flavor instead of adding salt. Well, if you're one that likes to eat out, do your research before you go. I'm not saying that you cannot ever eat out again. Just be mindful. Just be mindful of it. All right. Look for the healthier options. Look under the lighter options section of the menu. Okay. Now, this is one that is important to me, and I wanted to make sure that I shared it because I have so many in our group that technically have high blood pressure. This is something that you may not be currently doing, and I want to ask you to do it. Ask your healthcare provider or your pharmacist about the sodium content in your medications, including your over-the-counter meds. I will say it again. I'll say it again. How often do you honestly think about the amount of sodium that's in those pills that you take every day? I don't have daily meds that I'm required to take, but that was eye-opening to me because I never would have considered, I never would have thought to ask the question or to make the consideration. A lot of times we're more cognizant with those over-the-counter meds because it has gotten better over time that we understand that we should be checking and making sure that we don't take certain meds because it can elevate, it can raise our blood pressure. But what about the prescriptions? All right, so do me a favor, those of you that are on daily medications, make sure that at least you have the conversation and you check those medicines. All right. Now, let me go ahead because we're going to do that in our health and wellness. So I want to go ahead at this time. You've gotten the information. You've received the information in the presentation. I need you to go ahead, take that phone, go ahead, scan that QR code. Make sure that you get that 1 minute post survey out of the way. So now your answers should be slightly different after we've had the conversation, after we've had the discussion on this topic. All right. So with that being said, I want to take the opportunity to say thank you for taking time out for your health and taking time out to create a culture of health, not only to you, but to you and your children and your children's children. Again, I am so thankful to Tabernacle for their partnering with the American Heart Association and Amgen Cardiology. I'm grateful that we have the platform of the Health and Wellness Ministry so that we can talk about practical things that matter, because we want you to prosper and be in health even as your soul prospers. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. We will be continuing this conversation of breaking up with excess sodium in the Facebook group and on the Band app. So make sure that you get connected. Here's to your health. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll talk in the groups. Good night, everyone.